Hey guys, thanks for joining me. This is Rob Mitchell with the Oil Trading Room and IndicatorSmart.com, where trading is science. And this is a special edition, the July 5th edition of the Oil Trading Room discussion and recap. Because this is a holiday week, I decided to do something special for you. It's a shortened holiday week, but this week entitled The Secret of Indicators That Work. And I'm going to show you some of the principles that we work with and that we discuss in our trading room, that we use with our tools all the time to develop advanced trading methods that work and get probability stacking and things like that, that stack things in your favor and give you an edge as a trader. First off, past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. There is a risk of loss trading futures. Read this disclaimer. And above all, don't use the grocery money for trading. So what I'm going to cover today is the secret of indicators that work. I'm going to talk about what you cannot see by looking at a chart and other things that you might put on your chart that would serve as a reminder. There's two categories there. And then I'm going to discuss using the same indicators over a period of time and the benefit of doing that with growth and evolution, and how refinement of a trading method and the evolution of that trading method happens over time. Then I'm going to discuss the history of the Smart Patterns trading system that we use in the oil trading room every day, trader tool set. And I'm going to talk to you about what is the result of this kind of approach. Now, I'm not just focusing on the result of the Smart Patterns trading system, but this is a more global discussion of how you get to something that just cooks. This is a discussion of how super trading systems and methods are developed, evolved, and cultivated that are ultimately critical to your success as a trader. And it's easy to miss out on that and not get to the point. You kind of lose the forest for the trees. So this is a discussion of what that experience will look like over time for you. Here's some comments this week from the reviews page, oiltradingroom.com/reviews. Various traders sharing their success using these methods that we're talking about in this little mini webinar here today. So what you cannot see by looking at a chart. One thing that you cannot see is order flow. And order flow is extremely important. I've said for many years, order flow leads price. Order flow leads price. We've got patterns called the lead out pattern and boxing patterns. And they generically have, well, if you do it with the trend, the lead out pattern, room members have reported to me 97% rate for follow through, for win rate. What's another thing that you can't see? Another thing on order flow before I go to that. Historically, when I first started doing order flow years ago, I was using ladders and things like that. It had all kinds of numbers all over the chart. That can be so confusing to you as a trader. So I developed a trap trader oscillator. We're going to take a look at that in just a minute, which basically reduces all your order flow analysis down to a simple line. Just that simple. So you don't have to digest all that information. It just brings it all down to one simple thing that you can see. And the patterns that occur on that have high probability. They're extremely easy to see and understand because it's just a graphical thing. You're not analyzing numbers. Part of the problem with analyzing numbers is that if you get too analytical while you're trading, it will block your intuition, and it won't be possible for you to, many traders experience this. They call it analysis paralysis. And so we develop these tools in a way so that you don't get caught up in that world where you can't act on it. and be intuitive in your trading, which is really your body. And that way you don't have the emotions that are associated with that incongruity between your body and your rational mind. But what's another thing you can't see? You can't see momentum, acceleration, and deceleration on a chart unless you're extremely experienced with it. And so I'm going to show you, we have a simple tool that we put on our chart for that. We have those two things on the chart. What's another thing you might not be able to see? High probability price action patterns. There's all different kinds of methods that we use for that. Bar pattern classifications, retag analysis, things of this sort that have probabilities associated with them that are extremely specific and that repeat over and over and over again. And so unless you know what they are, you could be looking at your chart and you just never see those. So we put these three things on the chart: order flow, momentum, price action. Pretty much everything else that's on the chart is a reminder, or it might be telling you about something else that's on another chart, kind of like a higher time frame kind of stuff. So let's take a look at this chart. There's easily 50, 60, 70 patterns on this chart right here. Between the price action and the order flow and the momentum. So let's just go over what these tools are that we have here. The bars are, number one, bars are kind of a filter, but the bars give us price action patterns. Like when we see these two reversals here together, or these two reversals here together, or you see those three going there, or you see this stair-stepping higher, these kinds of patterns are very meaningful. These kind of patterns are meaningful. And then the trap trader oscillator in the second panel gives us our order flow and patterns on this, such as I covered this in many other weekly recaps and things like this. But like for this example, this one right here, we call this a LO pattern. And when it does that, particularly if it's with trend, is about 97% to follow through. This pattern right here we call the 3D pattern on the trap trader oscillator, and market is going to tend to go a little bit lower right there. Then you get this 3D pattern going this way with the uptrend, and the pattern that also leading out is extremely high probability. Probably this one upwards of 96% to follow through right here. This we call a 3DV pattern. This is extremely high to go higher. And you get the same kind of a pattern right here. We call this a R0 hook, or R0 trap. There's a little trap on the trap trader oscillator. So these relationship between the price action and the order flow helps you to see things that are super high probability on your chart. The third panel down, the smart momentum, tells us what's happening with the momentum. And when that tends to go against the price, it is actually predictive of range expansion. The cycle expansion begets range expansion. So order flow, trap trader oscillator, leads price, and cycle expansion leads price expansion. Cycle expansion leads price expansion. I could get into all the theories of that, but I've covered that in many other webinars. So basically you got three things on the chart. You got your price action, and you got your order flow, and you got your momentum. This smart volume stats down here, we use that on Wednesdays after the report to help us there. These yellow boxes tell us what's happening with the 30 minutes. We have a VWAP on here, 30-minute players like to trade off of that. These things are reminders of other things that are happening. This line right here is the prior day's close, or it could be the current day's open. And so everything else on the chart is that. We could take everything else off of there, actually, if we wanted to. But we keep these things on here as reminders and or price action, order flow, and momentum. Those three components are key to making a great trading system. So there are hundreds of patterns conceivably on the chart. We could probably mark out 20 of them. easy. Ones that work, there's a difference between the ones that work. But probably about 99% of all traders can't see most of them. Yeah. And particularly where they're interrelating, the interrelation between the price action, the order flow, and the momentum. All those three things interplaying together. So how many patterns can you see on the chart? I remember years ago I read a Larry Williams book, and he was talking about all these little hook patterns and things, and I was just astounded when I read it. And because I didn't see any of it. Yeah. So he was talking about things on the chart that I couldn't see, and until you see it, you won't see it. And then when you do see it, you go, whoa, right? Sometimes we find a new pattern in the room, we come back over the charts, we see a new pattern in the room, we observe it for several months, and then I go back over the charts, and it was always there. As far back as I've got charts, I got coming up on 5 years of history in the room charts, and the darn pattern's there, but we didn't see it. It was right in front of our face for 4 years, and then one day it pops out, and then you see it, and then your whole world is different. You know? So how many patterns do you know? You know? And how many of the patterns that you know really work with these kinds of probabilities that we're talking about, 80, 75, 80, 90 plus percent. You know? So how do you ultimately get to see the patterns, the ones that work? Yeah? And what is the result? And how does that happen in your experience? Yeah? These kinds of questions lead to the experience of a super trading method: creation, development, and evolution. So why do we use the same indicators? We use the same indicators for 5 years. Same indicators for 5 years. We added the trap trader oscillator. I forget, I have on here the date, coming up slide for that. And then we added the smart breakpoints, and some really interesting stuff happens when you do that. But we use the same indicators basically for 5 years, over and over and over again. So the key to an indicator is how you use it. It's not what it is. Yeah, there are indicators that are just great. You don't even need to know much to use them. But the key is in understanding how that indicator works and how it relates to other things. Price action, order flow, and momentum, more often than not, are the key components. Yeah. So over 5+ years that we've used the Smart Patterns trading system, we haven't changed the tools. There's no new and improved, no, it's not better than sliced bread. We've only added things to help us see more about the indicators that we're already using. And there's no new stuff, generally speaking. Yeah, we just get more and more and more refinement of the already existing stuff that works, and it leads to progressively higher win percentages and better win rates and results over time. Now, there's no new stuff. This is because the principles, order flow, momentum, price action, on which the system is based, it hasn't changed, because they're so fundamental to the way that markets work that it's not likely that it will ever change, since they're rooted in solid market theory. Yeah? So the concepts themselves are so fundamental and so simple that they're not likely to fail. I don't know of a time in all the years of analysis that I've done where order flow did not lead price action or cycle expansion did not lead price expansion. So those three things: price action, order flow, and momentum. We've got other things that we use like mapping and things like that. So we added the trap trader oscillator in March of 2015. And then we also added the smart breakpoints, was added in April of 2016. And I did that specifically to teach divergence, but then all kinds of amazing stuff started happening from that addition. And I'll discuss that in just a second. So how does this refinement kind of happen? What's like the experience of it? So one way is we got just a large number of traders in our trading room and contributing members. And so we've got tens of thousands of hours of people looking at this stuff and studying it. We got members that do all kinds of analysis and cool stuff, and then they come back and share it with us. I've been doing this stuff for decades, and so I kind of oversee that, give feedback, other members chime in. Oh, I noticed this, I noticed that. Yeah. And so you have many minds working on one thing over tens of thousands of hours of usage, input, and evolution of knowledge. And there's no substitute for that. You could never do that on your own. I mean, you could conceivably, but it might take 1,000 years with all that kind of time that we are able to get with everybody chiming in on these subjects that come up. We're constantly finding new things with the tools in this kind of ongoing evolution. And just when we think that we can't learn anymore, some big new thing happens. And it just gets better and better and better. It's just always gotten better and better. So this happens in high probability patterns in price action knowledge, order flow patterns, momentum patterns, and more. Like we use some mapping methods and things like that that I share in the weekly recaps and things like that. Yeah. So sometimes the addition of a tool results in much more learning than ever could have been imagined initially with the intended use of the tool itself. The smart breakpoints is a perfect example of this, as I just mentioned. Originally, I introduced that to teach divergence because I noticed some of the room members, some of my students were having trouble with divergence concepts. And so I thought, wow, what would happen if I made this entire divergence thing horizontal instead of happening at angles, just to make it super simple. But it didn't just result in an improvement of the teaching, but it quickly evolved into advancements in order flow and momentum that enabled us to see things that we couldn't see before. And it just opened up this door for a huge expansion. So we put this little thing on the chart to help us see a pattern a little bit better, and over time, several years now, a couple years, a little over 2 years, 2.5 years, it just evolved into this whole science with the smart breakpoints. We even have like our line break system and things, which is based on the smart breakpoint system. If you've watched some of the weekly reviews and things, by the way, subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you can get access to these ongoing discussions that we have that can help you with your trading. So how refinement and evolution happens, and that evolution is a key word there, yeah, because it's always moving forward. Yeah. So due to the input from the members, questions overseen by market expertise. So we got guys in the room been trading for over 10 years and using the kinds of methods that we're talking about, and newer, less experienced members often ask questions trying to clarify on things, and that has also led to many amazing discoveries and highly improved teaching methods as well. But many amazing discoveries have come from newer, less experienced members. Just simply, it just starts with a question, and then the next thing you know, it explodes into some new area of knowledge that we do. Yeah, and that couldn't have happened. I mean, the new user on his own, or somebody who's newer, could have been asking that question of themselves. But because they asked the question in an environment with a lot of experience at the table, that can be taken to a higher level really quickly if there's something there. And sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't, but that's just the way it works. So these methods that we're talking about, by the way, work in any reasonably volatile market. These concepts, because they're fundamental to the way markets move and what moves markets. Yeah. So other methods that we use: market mapping, probability walking, higher time frame analysis, retag analysis, pattern classifications, different kinds of things. There's all different kinds of these things that we know have resulted in a huge body of knowledge from using the same indicators over and over, day after day, for years by hundreds of contributors. Yeah. And then the oversight of this process by experienced members, users, and researchers, we've evolved to a very high level. I've been doing this for a long time, and my background is in statistics, so I just love taking a pattern and subjecting it to analysis. We had a discussion the other day in the room about repeated measures analysis. So I want to talk about something that'll destroy a trading system really fast. Repeated measures analysis is a powerful statistical tool to help you know if your trading system is good or not. And 99% of all the trading systems out there will not hold up to it. But because I've been doing repeated measures analysis for years and years and years, that's just embedded in what we do. We don't get into a bunch of statistical discussions and all this kind of stuff. We don't have to because we know what these things, how they work and the basic principles behind them. And then it just becomes a rule of thumb, something that you know or can reduce to a rule of thumb while you're trading. This is important, I alluded to a few minutes ago, is being able to be intuitive while you're trading and not being all caught up in data analysis and statistics and a whole bunch of super rational kind of stuff, because you have to be able to trade in a manner that works for your physiology as well. Yeah, because I mean, you can't click the button without your body, right? So what's the result of this kind of evolution? We have many patterns: order flow, momentum, price action, mapping, all the methods that we've mentioned here and more, with exceptional theoretical historical win rates. Yeah. So as a side note, this makes for users being able to trade patterns that are suitable for their own personal way of trading. I just suggested this, yeah. And it's entirely true. One of the first things I learned when I started teaching was that trader has to do it in their own way. Yeah. And so it's like learning to fish. What we're doing here is like learning to fish compared to being given a fish. Because when you learn to fish, you can do that for life. You can survive on it, but you can't survive if somebody just gave you a fish. There's a difference between begging at a street corner and driving past that person standing there asking for a handout in your new Tesla. Yeah. So altogether, this smart patterns oil trading room method has become trading science. We work with known outcomes based on the historical, theoretical probabilities, and they recur over and over and over again because they're grounded in the way markets work, but also grounded in trading science. Yeah. So additionally, these methods were not discovered by backtesting. This is a huge and very cool subject. These methods were discovered by observation, many times for months and months, that was then followed by testing, refinement, and the development of statistical methods with them. There's a huge difference between knowing a pattern and then testing it, or data mining and finding a pattern that isn't likely to repeat in the future, particularly, like I said, if you subject it to repeated measures analysis. Yeah. And we go back, we've got 4.5, 4 3/4 years of historical charts that we have as a database for our room members. Yeah. This is very, very different from backtesting, cannot be compared to it. A very important point right there. Yeah. So if you've been trading with tools that are not developed in the ways that we're describing here, be careful. If you've jumped from one method to another without success, we've all done it. Yeah. Beware, because that's not the way it works in the end game. That's not the way it works. The way it works is an evolution of consciousness. When you come into our trading room, you're jumping into a highly evolved situation where you can get feedback on your ideas, and even sometimes we'll just take a member's idea and we'll test it. Yeah. But particularly so if we observed it first. Yeah. So if you'd like to learn the kinds of trading methods that I'm talking about here that are grounded in the way markets work, and then grounded in statistical science, and grounded in pattern discovery before testing, yeah, with a high level of evolvement. It's based in science, yeah. Then we'd love to have you in the trading room. So what's the oil trading room method like? You know, the smart patterns trading system. It's not like anything else. As we get high theoretical probabilities and win percentages based on the science that we're talking about here. It's really ultimately science, and it was approached from a very scientific standpoint. My educational background is in experimental design and statistics, and I have used that ever since I graduated from college. From day one, even before I graduated from college, started developing trading systems using these kinds of methods that we're talking about here. Yeah. And it's just evolved over close to 30 years from there. Yeah. So if you have any questions, or you'd like to learn more about how we do this each day and be a part of the ongoing evolution and growth of the methods that we use, you can contact me through the website, but even better, just go to the website, oiltradingroom.com, and sign up. Be sure to key in the coupon code and get a nice discount, Black Gold 249. Yeah, Black Gold 249 for a nice discount. Get all the resources from this recap at the oiltradingroom.com, and the tools and resources you can learn about at indicatorsmart.com. There's all kinds of cool videos with all the indicators that are part of the smart pattern system that we've been discussing here. And those videos have all kinds of trading secrets in them and resources for you to learn even more, in addition to the webinars page and other resources on the oiltradingroom.com website. Yeah, get what you like at these sites. Thanks for joining me for this special holiday edition of the Room Recap. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to learn about what we do and how all this comes together over time into just the most amazing thing I've ever done in my life, to have this kind of growth and experience happen with the thing that I love to do the most in my life, trading and finding little nuggets of gold in the lining of it all. So thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one.